Pico's desert blazed under a sun that felt like fire. The wind carried the scent of rusted iron and scorching sand, whipping against the face of a lone rider on horseback. Ronan Hale was searching for a missing horse when he heard the sound. It was not the wind, and it was not a wild animal. It was a human voice. "Please, set me free. It hurts." The voice was hoarse, faint, as if buried beneath the sand. Ronan pulled the reins, turned his horse around, and followed the call. On a blood-stained dune, he saw a figure hanging from a dry tree branch, an Apache woman. She was tall, with muscular shoulders and arms, sun-darkened skin caked with dust, and long black hair matted with sweat. Rope dug deep into her wrists, and blood streamed down. Beneath her feet were the hoofprints of horses the hollow vultures had been here. Ronan stopped, his eyes turning cold. He climbed up, drew his knife, and cut her down. Her heavy body fell into his arms, burning with fever, heavy and barely clinging to life. Her lips moved slightly. "Do not let them see me." Ronan did not answer. He lifted her onto his horse and rode across the red sands, leaving behind the hanging tree and a trail of dried blood. In the distance, dark clouds gathered in the western sky. A storm was coming. But inside Ronan, something even more violent was rising. A decision that would pit him against the entire Wild West. That night, the wind howled through the cracks in the door, sweeping into the small cabin roofed with pine wood and memories. Ronan laid the Apache girl down on the old bed, the same bed where his wife had once lain sick through her final winter. The oil lamp cast a warm yellow glow over her face. Sun, bronze skin, cracked lips, rope marks etched deep into her wrists, and bruises covering her shoulders and chest. He boiled water, cleaned her wounds, and wrapped them carefully with clean cloth. She stirred slightly, her breath uneven. Where am I?" Her voice was hoarse, like it had just returned from the edge of death. "At my home. Stay calm." "Why? Did you save me?" Ronan stayed silent, wringing out the wet cloth into the basin. He did not really know the answer, maybe because he just could not turn away from that voice begging for mercy. As steam rose from the boiling pot and slowly warmed the room, she spoke again, her voice trembling but firm. "My name is Nahi. The hollow vultures captured me. They were going to sell me to a saloon in Dry Bluff. I fought back. So they hung me up, hoping to bait some fool into rescuing me." Ronan looked up. Her eyes did not belong to someone weak. Beneath that sun-darkened skin was the body of a warrior. But in those deep black eyes, he saw fear, the same fear that had once eaten away at him after his wife's death. He handed her a cup of water. "Drink. No one can touch you here." She took it, her hand large, strong, but shaking. "You should not have helped me. They will come back." Ronan sat down in the chair, staring out into the black window. "If they do, I will be waiting. No one deserves to be strung up like an animal in the desert." The wind blew out the lamp. In the dimness, only the glow of red embers remained, along with two breaths, one from a man who had grown tired of living, and one from a woman who had just escaped death. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. The desert was waking, and inside that lonely cabin, two souls, one old, one new, had just collided by chance. In a land where kindness always comes with a price in blood. At dawn the next day, the desert wind was still as sharp as a blade. Ronan stepped outside to lead his horse to water, then stopped in his tracks. His old horse, Rusty, his loyal companion for 7 years, lay motionless in a pool of dried blood. On the wooden door, a scorched mark stood out, the letter X burned in with hot iron, the symbol of the hollow vultures. Ronan clenched his fists. He understood the message they knew. It was a warning, a sentence. He quietly dragged Rusty's body into the barn, dug a grave, and buried him without a word. When he returned, Nahi was already standing on the porch, her black hair wild in the wind, her deep black eyes sharp with alertness. "They have come already?" "Not yet, but they will. You should let me go." Ronan shook his head. "If you leave, you will die. But if you stay, at least we have a chance to fight." Nahi looked at him and said nothing. In that moment, the wall she held around herself cracked open, revealing exhaustion, fear, and gratitude. She lowered her head, her voice barely more than a breeze. "I am used to seeing men run when they see us." "You did not." Ronan replied slowly. I ran once before. I am not looking to do it again. He began reinforcing the cabin, putting up extra wooden bars, sliding the table to block the door, and pouring more oil into the lamps. Each hammer strike echoed like a war drum preparing for a siege. Nahi helped him, her large hands veined and skilled, swinging the hammer as capably as any frontier man. When they were done, they sat by the stove, sweat mixing with the scent of smoke. Ronan poured her a cup of black coffee and said, Tonight, sleep in the cellar. The storm is coming. She nodded softly, gazing out the window. In the distance, red dust swirled in the wind like a warning the predators were returning. Before heading to rest, Nahi said quietly, If they kill you, I will not let a single one of them live. Ronan just smiled, a tired and sorrowful smile. Then it sounds like we have the same plan. Outside, the wind howled through the stone gaps, sweeping away the desert's old ashes. And in that small house, two strangers began to wait for the storm, for the enemy, and to see whether kindness could survive the night. That night, the sky split open with a lightning bolt long as a silver blade. The wind howled and moaned around the cabin, carrying the damp scent of the storm and thunder that sounded like hooves pounding against stone. Ronan sat at the table, cleaning his old Winchester. With every sip of coffee, he glanced toward the cellar where Nahi was resting, her hand still gripping the knife at her hip. Outside, the wooden door creaked. The hinges groaned like cracking bones. Ronan stood, slung the rifle over his shoulder, and moved quietly. A strong gust slammed against the cabin. He signaled Nahi to stay quiet. The two of them locked eyes in the shadows, the flash of lightning revealing tense faces drawn tight with focus. Then shk! A dark figure slipped through the window, soaked to the bone, a blade glinting in the lightning. Nahi moved faster than a scream. She grabbed his throat, turned, and drove her knife deep into his chest. Blood sprayed, mixing with the rain. The wind swallowed his final cry. Ronan fired twice. The second man dropped dead on the porch, while the third disappeared into the dark, leaving deep footprints in the mud. The sky roared. Rain hammered down on the wooden roof. Each flash of lightning lit up blood trails across the floor, burning red like live embers. Nahi panted, her broad shoulders trembling, but her eyes still sharp as steel. 3 more left, she said, her voice rough. I know. They will come back when the storm weakens. Outside, thunder rolled without pause. Dark horses flickered at the edge of the valley, ghost-like in the storm. Ronan pulled Nahi down into the cellar, shutting the wooden hatch, leaving behind a world of water and fire above them. In the darkness, they could hear every step through the mud above, every drop of rain hitting the cellar roof like a ticking clock. Nahi clutched her knife. Ronan held tight to his rifle. His hands were shaking, but his eyes burned brighter than fire. That night, the storm did not just pound against the cabin roof, it struck 2 souls far too familiar with loss. And through the thunder, Ronan knew, if the sky ever lit up again, he would never be the same. I am deeply grateful to have you here. If this story brought back memories of dusty afternoons and hoofbeats echoing in your chest, consider subscribing to my channel, so every day we can sit together again, and I will tell you another tale from the Wild West. At dawn, it was still as dark as ash. The storm had not ended. It had only eased into a steady drizzle and a thick mist. Ronan lifted the cellar hatch and looked out. The yard was a swamp of mud, and the bodies of 2 vultures lay twisted like driftwood. Far off, 3 black horses stood quietly, as if they somehow knew their riders were still somewhere nearby. He climbed back down into the cellar. Nahi was checking her knife, her gaze as hard as steel. They are still here, she said. Yeah, and they know we will not run. Ronan handed her his old Colt, its stock spotted with rust. When I say shoot, do not hesitate. She nodded and took the gun with both big hands, the muscles in her arms standing out beneath sun-darkened skin. They waited. The sound of hooves echoed from a distance, slow and deliberate. The 3 remaining men wanted to scare him, but Ronan had been without fear since his wife died. The door burst open. A man lunged inside, cloaked in black, a crooked smile on his face. Nahi's shot rang out before he could speak. The bullet hit him in the upper arm and sent him crashing into the table. The other 2 charged, firing repeatedly. Wood splintered, glass shattered. Ronan ducked low and returned fire. The Winchester screamed, gun smoke thick as fog. "One of you circle to the back," he yelled. Nahi dashed out the back door. Thunder cracked above her. Rain stung her face, icy cold. The fourth man came at her from the barn. She spun, threw a punch that knocked him clean on his back, and he went out cold. Ronan fired the last shot. The bullet struck the remaining man who was trying to drag his gun out of the mud. The rain stopped. The land lay quiet in a damp haze of smoke and the smell of blood. Nahi stood in the yard, soaked through, muscles taut, breathing hard but eyes blazing. Ronan stepped outside, his coat torn, his face splattered with blood, his rifle empty. They looked at each other, no words needed. Only the drip of water from the cabin roof remained, joining the earth's long exhale. Ronan spoke softly, his voice hoarse. "It is over." Nahi closed her eyes and nodded once. As the sun rose above the jagged ridge, its pale golden light cut through the mist, revealing the chaos left behind by the night. Ronan's cabin was scorched, smoke still clinging to the rooftop. The mud was streaked with blood. The smell of gunpowder mingled with damp earth. In the middle of the yard, Nahi knelt, bare hands burying the bodies in shallow graves. Her strong, bare shoulders trembled slightly, not from fear, but from exhaustion. Ronan stood nearby, leaning against the porch post, his eyes sunken. He said nothing, only poured a cup of cold coffee and placed it beside her. "Apache are not afraid of death," she said softly. "But I am afraid I dragged you into this." "You did not drag me," Ronan replied, his voice as steady as stone. "I walked in on my own." Hoofbeats echoed in the distance. Desert dust curled up on the horizon. 2 cavalrymen in blue cloaks appeared. One of them wore a badge that caught the light. Marshal Quinn. He stopped at the edge of the fence, his eyes sweeping over the dead bodies before settling on Ronan. "Heard there was trouble out by the Picos. Someone wiped out a whole group of hollow vultures." Ronan did not answer. He only nodded toward the open grave. The marshal stepped closer, examined the bullet holes, then glanced at Nahi. "She Apache?" "She is someone who was saved," Ronan said. Quinn pulled a bundle of worn, rain-damp papers from his coat, wanted posters. Every name on that list was now lying in the dirt. "We chased these bastards for 2 years," he said quietly. "And in one night, you took them all down." Ronan looked at him, his gaze tired but calm. "I only saved a life. That is all." The marshal stood silent for a long moment, then nodded. "That is enough." He removed his badge and set it down on the wooden table. "This is your proof. If anyone asks, say you are working with us. It will keep them from poking around." Ronan looked at the badge, but did not touch it. "Justice comes slow in these parts, Marshal." Quinn gave a faint smile. "It does, and sometimes it comes wearing the face of someone who stopped believing in it." As they rode off, the dust blurred the horizon. Ronan turned and saw Nahi standing by Rusty's grave. She placed a white daisy on it, one she had picked by the stream. The midday light fell on her sun-bronzed face, both fierce and strangely sorrowful. Ronan lit a cigarette and said quietly, "They will not be coming back anymore." Nahi looked at him, her eyes softening. "Then we are still alive, at least for today." After the storm and the bloodshed, Picos returned to its silence. The wind still blew, but it no longer carried the scent of rusted iron. Only the fresh smell of new grass growing around the horse stable remained. Ronan woke early every morning, lit the stove, made coffee, and stepped outside with his shovel. Across the porch, Nahi was already awake. She carried buckets of water from the well, cold droplets running down her strong shoulders, catching the golden light of dawn. They spoke little, they just worked. But in every movement, in every glance, there was a strange quiet, as if both were afraid to stir the loneliness still lingering inside each other. Ronan rebuilt the fences. She helped him saw the wood. With every swing of the hammer, every line of sweat down Nahi's arms, he remembered his late wife but also realized something else. Life had never truly left him. She was strong, quick, and when she laughed, her voice was warm and soft, like the wind in May. One afternoon, they went to catch a runaway colt in the sandy stretch behind the hill. Nahi ran ahead, her black hair flying in the sunday. When the horse was cornered, she reached out, leaped, and brought the rope down in one powerful move. From a distance, Ronan watched the silhouette of the Apache woman under the sunset, like a bronze statue standing tall in the desert. He felt his heart beat again, that feeling he thought had been buried long ago. Night fell. The cabin glowed with light once more. Nahi cooked corn cakes while Ronan sat mending a shirt. She looked at him and smiled gently. "Do white men always eat this little?" "I forgot how to live," he replied. "Then learn again." Her voice was half teasing, half true, but it warmed the room more than the fire. Those weeks passed slowly. Mornings brought birdsong. Evenings brought kitchen smoke. Ronan taught her the letters carved into wood. She taught him an old Apache song, deep and drawn out, like the wind echoing through a canyon. And one morning, when Ronan opened the door, he saw her tending to the wildflowers growing beside Rusty's grave. She said only one thing: "This place needs life." He did not answer. He simply stood there in silence, then gave a slow nod. For the first time in many years, he no longer felt like he was living in ashes but in new soil, where someone could begin to plant hope again. The following spring came earlier than usual. Grass grew green around the well, and herds of young colts ran freely in the early light. The Pico's ranch, once home to nothing but wind and ashes, now echoed with laughter, the sound of hammers and kitchen smoke rising straight into the sky. Ronan leaned on his shovel, gazing at the freshly tilled soil. He was older now, his shoulders a bit hunched, but his eyes shone with something new, the light of a man who had a reason to wake up every morning. Nahi walked over, her rough-spun dress hugging her tall frame, her belly now showing a gentle curve. She placed a hand on his shoulder, a faint smile drifting in the breeze. "The baby will be born when the corn is ripe." Ronan gave a tired but gentle smile. "Then it will grow up with the golden season." Inside the house, on the wooden table, a marriage license lay ready. The signatures were shaky, but their names sat side by side. Marshall Quinn had certified it himself, with a raspy chuckle. "You two just became the first to co-own a ranch around here, white man and Apache together." Ronan only nodded. Nahi, looking out the door toward the golden fields, spoke in a voice like song. "Now this land belongs to no one, and to everyone." In the days that followed, they lived like two seasons passing through each other. In the mornings, Nahi led the horses into the field, her strong arms working just as they did before she was with child. In the afternoons, Ronan sat by the well, mending boards, listening as she sang old Apache songs deep and drifting like wind through the canyons. At night, they lit fires and told stories of those who had past spirits called by the names of the wind. One day, Nahi brought out a small wooden sign, carved with a message: "Water for the thirsty, home for the lost. No color, no war." Ronan touched the letters, his voice thick with emotion. "Now I understand. I did not save you, you saved me." She smiled, placing his hand gently on her belly. "No, Ronan, we saved each other." That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hill and the light turned honey gold, they stood side by side on the porch. The wind carried the scent of fresh corn and warm smoke, the scent of a real home. Ronan spoke, his voice fading into the breeze. "I can hear our home now, Nahi." She leaned on his shoulder, closed her eyes, and smiled. And in the place where death had once visited, now only life remained simple, steady, and as beautiful as the final promise of the wild. My friends, in a land once known only for hatred and blood, the kindness of one man did what no bullet ever could. It brought a wilderness back to life. Ronan saved a girl, only to be saved in return by the faith she carried with her. Nahi, once a victim, now a mother, planted seeds of life into the desert. They did not win anything, did not conquer anyone. They simply chose to love in a place where no one believed in it anymore. And sometimes, that kind of compassion is the strongest thing left in the West. It has been a blessing to walk this journey with you. I truly hope you find joy and peace, no matter where life takes you. I love you, my beloved audience of Wild West storytelling. Let me know what you felt about this story. Leave a comment below. Type the number 1 if you enjoyed this tale. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel to catch the next gripping story from the Wild West.